The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Henderson, Nevada, job number 29932. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment or Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started with a brief overview of your apparatus. Located in the bumper on the right and left-hand side are two electronic sirens. Moving inward, two air horns. Moving up from that location mounted on the bumper is a right and left, a mechanical siren, and a mechanical bell. Moving up from that, right and left turn signals. Moving inside the cluster which houses the headlights, the outer lights are going to be your low beams, and the intersection on the cluster are the high beam headlights. Moving upward from that, you have a cluster on both right and left-hand side for emergency lights. Here are some close-ups of the individual areas we just spoke about. Looking at the top of the apparatus, on the very brow of their section are the running lights. There are 5 of those. The very top is your emergency light bar. Moving inward is your forward-facing floodlight. And just above that, inside the light bar, is your opticom. In the front bumper of your apparatus, the 2 latches will open a section which will allow you to gain access to the front discharge. On the sides of the apparatus of the bumper are both right and left warning lights. And as you'll see also within the bumper, there is a door that opens up to allow access for the location of your cab tilt location. Simply lower or raise the cab by selecting the switch, unlock the release lever, and then activate that. Although prior to doing this, make sure everything is stored properly within inside the cab. Also looking at the A pillar on the driver's side is your serial number. As we look at a generalized section of the front of the cab, take note just before the front of the tire and just aft of the tire is located 2 ports. Those locations are your battery charger shoreline inlet, which is a 20 amp power. There are also step lights underneath that, and perimeter lights. And to the aft of the front tire is the crew cab AC shore inlet, a 20 amp inlet plug also. At the very top, you have your generator-powered floodlight, adjustable. Once the cab has been tilted, there are a variety of different fluids. This is the location of your steering fluid. There is also an access point if the cab is down to access oil and transmission levels. Underneath on the passenger side is the storage location for your hydraulic fluid. This is a general view of your pump. We're going to get a little bit more in depth and a little bit more close-ups on this, so we'll go ahead and go with that for now. Looking at the left-hand side at the very top of your pump panel, you'll find 3 indicators. First one is an amber check transmission. The next one down is a amber, which is going to be a check engine. And the next one down from that is going to be red, and that is a stop engine. Moving inward to the center is the pump intake. This is your master pump intake. In between those 2 large gauges is going to be the 2 ports for vacuum and pressure. This is your pump discharge master gauge. Moving down to the control panel, here is the Pierce Information Center.
Moving over to the right hand side, this is the pump boss, which is your throttle control. This is the location at the very top for your panel light, and then there are subsequently switches below that, which we'll talk about. This is your recirculating line, quarter turn. Just below that is your engine cooler, quarter turn. And just below this is your pump primer. As we look to the left-hand side of those locations, this is your foam pro. Moving to the right of that is your foam tank level for Class A foam. Moving to the right of that is a visual gauge for your transmission temperature. Beneath this is the pump hours. Moving all the way to the left-hand side, you'll notice there are a variety of different discharges. They are color-coded. That was discharge number 1, discharge number 2. The next one over is going to be a rear 1.5" pre-connect. And moving further over is the rear 2.5" pre-connect. As you can see, they also have indicators for foam, which means they can do water and foam at the same time. The next indicator here is your foam totalizer. Looking at the lower subsection of the pump panel, we'll get a little bit more into the information on that, or I should say close-ups of that information also. Looking at the left-hand side is a large diameter discharge wheel. Moving over to the right-hand side, colored in some of an orange color, is the number 1 discharge. Moving further over with the red light on is indicating a 0 water in your tank. This is your water tank level. Just from that is the tank fill lever and the tank to pump. Just below that is the Pierce information placard, which houses your RPMs and pump pressures. Located in the center is your large diameter intake. On the left-hand side lower section, this is going to be the 2.5 intake. Just up from that with the adjustable wheel here is the air pressure, and this is your air pressure chuck for outward air pressure. And another image here of the intake. Moving to the right-hand side and all the way down at the very bottom, the levers that are in various color codes are for discharges, and they are for draining of those individual discharges. There's also a step at the bottom, and as you can see, you also have a tub for hose storage. Underneath that tub is the drain for the master pump. Looking at a generalized section of the left-hand side or driver's side, underneath the front and rear wheel area are foldable wheel chocks. The silver compartments that you see here as we open the compartment doors, that's going to be for bottle storage in the front. You have 2 available bottle storages there. In the very back, this is going to be where you would fill your DEF and your diesel fuel. Simply move down the guard to select which one you'd like to fill. Underneath that is a 120 VAC 20 amp female outlet. And just to draw your attention in the compartment, we'll be looking and talking about the 4 different panels above. Moving to the very front is the auto charger. The one in the tan is your generator, which is G1 panel. This is for your electrical, turning each individual switch location. In the center is your generator generator panel information, start and stop location. And on the far right hand side, that's going to be the S1, which is for shore power. Just beneath that, there is additional bottle storage or SCBA storage. Looking at the center compartment of the body of the apparatus, inside you have an adjustable shelf. Looking at the rear compartment, the top section houses an adjustable shelf, and the very bottom section, by pushing down on the lever, will allow the portion to roll out. Generalized section of the left-hand side and a portion of the rear. As we get more in depth into the rear of the apparatus on the next set of slides, we'll talk a little bit about some of the lights that are back here also. Let's start down in the left-hand corner. On both right and left-hand side, you have turn signals, which are arrow indicators. Just above that is an LED brake light. Moving just to the right of that is your reverse lights. Up from that is an emergency light. And moving down to the right-hand section is the work light or step light. In this same area, there are also two switches, one for your hose bed lights and the other for rear scene lights. Looking just above this section is a small compartment for long tools. When looking in that compartment, this houses your folding or 10-foot ladder, in addition with long pole storage. General view of the overall hose bed. Moving to the right-hand side of the apparatus is once again more additional long storage. Your reverse camera or backup camera. Just beneath that is your traffic advisor. Also, by opening the compartment, you have additional board storage and a ladder storage section. General view of the back of the apparatus. Once this door is rolled up, this is where you'll find your 200-foot 20-amp plug. To the right-hand side, vertical compartment is going to store your ladders and additional long pole storage. You have a 24-foot extension and a 14-foot roofer, in addition with two long poles above. Underneath the bottom, there's a center-mounted attachment point, in addition with two folding or pull-out steps. Looking at the top of the apparatus, a fully covered hard apparatus storage. There are subsections on the sides which allow for opening of access for goods that are stored in the upper sections. They are also lit from the cab lights below. As a general looking forward picture, looking at the blue, which is a 500-gallon water tank, and the green is indicating tank A, which is a 30-gallon foam tank. Moving to the left-hand side, your deluge, and to the right-hand side, this is a location covered for your generator. Also take note of the two placard or warning stickers on the right and left-hand side for no step. This is your 12-volt air conditioning unit. Just behind that is your 110 air conditioning unit. General view of the hose bed covered. This is the transverse hose storage compartment. When that transverse hose compartment is lifted and open, this device is the mechanism to maintain and holding it open. Moving to the passenger side of the apparatus, at the very top section you'll find a red and blue emergency lights. Also housed a floodlight located at the very top of this section. As we look at the rear compartment, this is going to house two adjustable shelves with the ability for an additional shelf underneath if you choose. Looking at the center compartment by the handle, it's a red emergency light. Just inside the compartment is additional storage. As we move forward of that location, additional storage location. Also, as we look in between the tire, at the very top is a red emergency light. Just to the rear of that is the 120 VAC 20 amp plug. Just above that is the bottle storage for two SCBA or bottles in this location. Just to the front of the apparatus or front tire, and the rear again is going to be additional bottle storage for two bottles here. Looking at the pump panel, the very bottom, we've got the large diameter intake. Just above that, large diameter discharge. Moving up from that, a 2.5-inch discharge. You can see the work lights that are illuminated, and you have a variety of different pump panel access doors, and we'll talk a little bit about more of those as we move into the close-ups on those. General section here for your ventilation for your generator. To the right of that is hose storage. As we look at the pump panels, I'm going to direct you down to the very bottom left-hand side. Behind this panel, on the left-hand side here, right next to the large diameter intake, here it is located. This is going to be your internal relief valve and also foam drain. Looking at the bottom is additional drains, manifold drains, and discharge drains. Looking up from that location, just above the large diameter discharge, is another housing which houses doors for the electrical section and also foam section. Looking down below at the very bottom is a tub section for hose storage, and once again a lit step in this location. Moving forward of that is another lit step for accessing the hose pull on the cross lay. Once again, generalized view of the right-hand side of the apparatus. As we move to the forward section of the cab, this is the air actuated steps. And on the door, there are warning, danger, and hazard labels. Please make note of those. As you transverse into the step area, just above that, basically on the driver's feet section or flooring section, the red square box there is going to be what is indicated for your battery auto charging center. To the right of that is an air inlet and also your air step pressure. Here's a close-up of that auto charging system, and also a close-up of the air inlet and air step pressure gauge. Moving up from that, I'll direct you to the section on the left-hand side by the knee. The diagnostic ports in green and gray, those are for diagnostic information. Just above that, the red switch is your master battery switch, and to the right of that is your pump shift. As we move also toward the floor section is the Pierce placard, which indicates the year the apparatus was manufactured. This is the location of the job number. Moving down from that is your gross vehicle weight rating. As you move further down, about mid-section of this plaque is the VIN, which is also located on the A pillar. And there is also a section here that tells you a little bit about fluid capacities and what those capacities are individually. Looking at the front panel for the driver operator, the left-hand corner is going to be a placard that's in yellow, indicating the height, length, and gross vehicle weight rating of your apparatus. Moving down to the cluster of gauges in the bottom is the volt, oil pressure, DEF level, fuel level, transmission temperature, rear air. Moving up from that, water temperature, tachometer, speedometer, and front air. Also, make note of the caution and warning labels throughout the cab. Looking at the driver's left-hand side, this is going to be your ignition switch, start switch, panel dim switch, and your headlights. Moving to the right-hand side of the driver's steering wheel, you'll find a informational center. These will illuminate when needing attention. Moving to the section just below that, there are a couple of locations for future switches. What's housed in this area is also the high idle switch and the OK to engage high idle. Once again, going back to the dash, the height 11 feet 4 inches, the length of your apparatus 33 feet and a quarter, and the gross vehicle weight rating, which is 24.25 tons. Just below that also is your job number at 29932. General view to the right-hand side of the driver operator, and we'll get a little bit more in depth with some close-up shots on this too. Let's start at the very top with the climate control for the front cab of the apparatus. moving down from that in this section of switches is going to be your DPF region. Moving over the red switch is the DPF region inhibit, off-road traction, your mirror heat, the engine brake for on and off, and when your engine brake is on, whether you want it in high, medium, or low. The yellow knob in the center is going to be your system parking brake, and just to the right of that is also going to be an audible alarm. Down from that is your Allison transmission pad, and as we move up into the middle, this is the Pierce Information Center, which you can scroll through a variety of information. Here's another indicator of your parking system brake, and the audible alarm was for the seatbelt alarm. This is an indicator that you pump and drive. Moving to the right-hand side of that, there is another subsection of switches. These are the switches that operate your generator. Just above that is the main mirror and convex mirror controls. This is your generator panel. Start and stop for the generator in red. The 120 manual transfer switch, your front flood, driver side flood, and passenger side flood. Just beneath that subsection of switches is the generator operating instructions on a placard here. Just above the operator's head, you have two subsections of switches. We'll get a little bit more in depth on those also. Starting with the left-hand side of the operator, just over the operator's head, this is going to be your emergency master switch. This is your roof light, front warning, side warning, rear lower warning lights, upper rear warning, your opticom, and your high beam flash. Moving to the right of that set of switches is the sign or horn, perimeter lights, your rear scene, siren brake, and then some future switch locations also. Moving just to the right of that, of the driver's seat, you'll find the main radio. This is going to be a weather band Sirius XM CD player. Just above the driver's head, there is a light switch. There are visors, which the little thing at the very top there is a quarter turn to hold the visor up. This is your warning light to let you know that you have a compartment door open. This is a section of swivel with your main radio. Underneath that is the PA system and your siren. This is going to be an access panel door for electrical access to fuse boxes and relays. Moving to the side here is going to be your fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. Looking from the driver's side into the rear compartment, this is going to be the center mounted console, roll-up compartment door. Underneath that, there's also storage underneath that location, illuminated storage with adjustable shelving. There is also at the very top of that a 20 amp plug-in for shoreline generated power. At the very top of this, you've got your headsets and control from David Clark. You also have in-mounted SCBA seats. Main panel for the rear section of your David Clark system. Overhead lights and air conditioning. Fold down rear seat. This is another compartment storage location, which has lockable key storage. An additional locking storage location. Underneath the flap in the rear here, this piece of material will pull back. What's underneath this is the access port for gaining access for checking fluids for the engine. As we move toward the front seat, passenger side, underneath the passenger seat there is additional storage location. And once we're in the passenger seat looking forward facing, you have access to your computer and additional storage location for guides and map books. There's also a 12-volt access point right near the map book location. Just above that, in the front of that, there is the vehicle data recorder. Just over the passenger's head is an additional future location for switches and a light. There is also a map book light in the very front. This will end your orientation. Congratulations on your new apparatus, Henderson, Nevada, job number 29932. Thank you.